Hi everybody, it's Henry Gilbert from GamesRadar.com. You know, recently we did our list of the best superhero games of all time, and that got us thinking, what makes something a great superhero game? We checked in with the rest of the staff to see what makes a truly super game.
Oh man, I love MMOs.
So when you're making an MMO, there are a bunch of different ways you can approach it. I think DC Universe Online did a great job because it realized that part of being a superhero is the physics of it, the physical ability to pick something up and throw it.
I think what makes a great superhero MMO is the chance to make your own character, customize your own guy, become your own superhero.
So a great superhero MMO has just got to have awesome character customization. It's got to let me do whatever I want and be the hero that I want to be, right?
Good classes, because you want people to have something to grind and work towards. If they don't have that, then it's kind of like, what's the point in playing the game?
The most important part of a superhero MMO is still that it still has to be a really good MMO. It still needs really great endgame content, lots of really cool raids where it feels like you are actually fighting against supervillains or some kind of really difficult to take down equivalent.
The biggest strength that superheroes can have in an MMO is the travel powers. So DCUO did a really good job of it, where there was super speed, flying, and then grappling hooks and acrobatics. And all three were a way cooler way to get around than just riding a mount like a horse with golden armor. Who cares about that?
So I think what makes a great superhero MMO is really dedication to the universe. Like, it is all about making a world for them to exist in and not just to have other characters around it. And like in DC Universe Online, you're very much in Gotham, you're in Metropolis. But even when it isn't a city that you're so used to seeing in a comic book, then it still needs to have a very like consistent flow to the world.
Beat 'em ups. They might be the easiest genre to apply superheroes to, because you have games like Beautiful Joe that perfectly nails the entire part, because there's the slow motion, and for me it's like, you can't demonstrate what it looks like to move really fast, but if everything else slows down and you're moving normal speed, that works. I think collaboration is a big part of what makes a good beat 'em up, and games like Marvel Ultimate Alliance do a really good job of that because you end up being able to combine your powers.
You know, when you think of like the X-Men arcade games or any of the old Ninja Turtles arcade games, it was really all about teaming up with a group of people and just smashing buttons, using all of your character's really cool abilities and powers, and really feeling like you're in this beat 'em up world where you are almost an unstoppable force.
Man, a great superhero beat 'em up is just being able to get in there with your friends and mash a bunch of buttons. Like, that's really all you really need. Turtles in Time, that's really all you do, and they do all these, you know, crazy little one-liners like pizza time, and they start kicking foot soldiers at the screen. One of the best beat 'em ups, superhero beat 'em ups, in my opinion.
A great superhero beat 'em up like X-Men Arcade lets you have a lot of co-op with a lot of people. I think X-Men Arcade lets you do like 6 players. That's crazy.
So the Punisher beat 'em up was great because, you know, most beat 'em ups, you're just punching punks on the street, and you knock them out, that's it. In the Punisher arcade game, the Punisher and Nick Fury would just take out guns and shoot everyone on screen when they did a special move. It was amazingly brutal for such an early arcade game.
All right, so the 90s were a really great time for beat 'em ups, like arcade beat 'em ups of side scrollers of just walking forward and punching guys until they were dead. Those arcade beat 'em ups were awesome, and they really worked well with superhero franchises that were really popular in the 90s, like the Ninja Turtles, X-Men, Spider-Man. And I think what worked best for them was that they were so colorful. Like, the comic books are this colorful world with just like 4 color heroes beating each other up, and that's what, like in the X-Men arcade game, like everybody was so distinct, and they matched to their uniforms in the world, but their colorful costumes like really stood out in the world, more so than even characters in like Streets of Rage or Final Fight did. They were just made to pop off the page, and it's the same in the flat world of a 2D side-scroller.
Realism, and when I say realism, I use the term loosely. I just mean more like, if you say it's going to be in New York City, don't just throw up a bunch of buildings, throw the Empire State in there somewhere and just, call it New York. Like, actually go out and get those specific landmarks so that people can say, oh my gosh, I used to live on that street. That is, that is New York. So sort of authenticity.
Making a great open world superhero game sounds really easy, but we've seen it failed so many times because it's not just about running around the city, and that's what a lot of games get wrong. Because the main thing you want to do in an open world superhero game is be heroic. You want to save people. I mean, that's what Spider-Man 2 did kind of well in the few instances where you'd have to jump onto a car and just beat the crap out of the top of the car to stop a criminal. Or in the master stroke in the Arkham series where you'd get the notification that somebody was being attacked in the streets and you could swoop down to save them. That is huge. That's game-changing.
Saints Row 4 did an amazing job of just making you feel all-powerful. So when you're running around the city at Mach speed or just like gliding through the air, you pretty much felt like nothing could keep you down. And isn't that how most superheroes go?
So a great superhero open world game really just allows you to be every part of the spectrum of being a superhero. So you could just be swinging around the city as Spider-Man, like in Spider-Man 2, see someone getting robbed and, go and help them. And that's totally what Spider-Man does. Or you could be in Batman Arkham City and you could be racing across the city, like chasing after the Joker or going to fight Mr. Freeze. Like every part of being a superhero is there.
What definitely comes to mind here is Saints Row 4. I think that was the most fun I've ever had in a superhero game, and what really worked well for that was the mobility aspect. I need to be able to get from one end to the city to the other and not feel like I'm just jogging kind of fast in the streets. I want to be able to freaking jump like 13 city blocks, just like I could in Saints Row 4. Like, I think that game did an amazing job of really making you feel like you had awesome superpowers.
I think a big part of that goes to movement and how you explore the world. Like if you're just walking around or even just simply flying, it can get boring for a time. Exploration based on the abilities of the hero is a big part of it. Whether it's like skiing on electric power lines in the infamous games, or Spider-Man swinging around through a city in like as accurate a way as possible, or Batman does fly in the Arkham games, but it really keeps you engaged the whole time. An open world game is about going from point A to B to C, and if you're not having fun while doing that in a natural way for a superhero, then what's the point?
I can say that a great open world game has smoke powers, and neon, and me in it.
Hey, man.
Character selection. If I don't want to be any of the people, I don't even want to look at the game.
Fighting games are right about mastering certain characters and their movesets, and then knowing how best to utilize those against all the other possible character combinations. So I think the moveset aspect of this is really, really important. Building combos that make sense with the abilities that established characters have, and then making those look awesome, but also making them things that aren't super powerful. Obviously, balance is super important here. So
the best thing about having superheroes fight each other is that you could pit your favorite characters or your least favorite characters against each other.
A great superhero fighting game has crazy air combos like Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I can just knock Wolverine up into the air like 6 screens high.
So what makes a great fighting game is the amount of fan service you can pack into each character. So, with most fighting games, you have special moves where the character will just yell something out like, sure you can. But with superheroes, you can make them yell their classic lines from the comics or from the shows or movies or anything you want. So Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 does an amazing job.
Superhero fighting games are great because they're like the UFC of superhero games. Because other superhero games, it's like, oh man, look, it's Superman and it's Batman, and they're running next to each other and fighting stuff. But in a fighting game, you have to pit their different styles against each other. And from like a game design point of view, that's super difficult because you need to be able to kind of break down that character's skills and abilities into a fighting game kit. That's what makes Injustice so cool. I mean, Injustice kind of used the cop-out of like, magic, everyone's equally strong. Marvel vs. Capcom does a good job of it too. Just being able to see totally different combat styles come together and kick the shit out of each other.
I love finishing moves, so I would say maybe finishing moves, maybe with that signature move that they're always known for.
The best superhero fighting games are ones that just kind of throw out logic and reality. Like, they can't be as visceral as a Mortal Kombat or as grounded as Street Fighter. Like, if you look at like the Marvel vs. Capcom series up to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, you'll see very fast combos, crazy one-sided battles if people know what they're doing, and then also like a little bit of imbalance, but that's kind of what works. While meanwhile in Injustice, the most entertaining parts of that were just the over-the-topness of it. Superman could just punch a guy into the sky and then punch him back down. It makes superhero fighting games special compared to most other like martial arts games.
It's hard to make a character in a game feel like the character that's in a comic. But you know, if you have the proper gameplay, like in Batman Arkham City, you have the Predator mode where you feel like you're Batman, you're picking off people and they're scared as hell shooting into the rafters and stuff. And that's what Batman does.
I mean, it's a combination of things, right? So you're controlling the character. You want to, in an accurate superhero game, you want to feel like you're moving the way that character would. Like in Spider-Man, you have the web slinging, which is very tactile. In Batman, you have his grapple gun and all his Swiss Army knife gadgets.
The thing that makes it accurate is staying true to the characters, be they the heroes or the villains. And Batman Arkham Asylum did an amazing job of that. And they had all the voice actors from the animated series, or as many as they could get. And none of the characters ever seemed like they were outside of their personality. It all gelled perfectly with the way you expect them to act.
I think one of the most important things here are actually some of the more subtle things. Of course, you have to get costume design right, but you also really need to nail the world design in the sense that when you're looking around at buildings or you're inside of a building or a room or whatever, you have to see things that you see when you're reading, you know, a comic of that superhero, or if you're watching a movie of that superhero. It has to be a lot of really cool references, I think, that are very, very believable and in place. The attention to detail is what's most important there.
I think the better word is authentic, because you can't really make accurate. I mean, there's a Spider-Man comic where he dresses all in black in like S&M gear in like the 1950s with giant goggles and goes around. And then there's one where it takes place thousands of years in the future. There's like 16 different Peter Parkers that all exist in the year 2014. So there's nothing that makes them all accurate, but authenticity to me is that that the games are done in the spirit of it. So in the case of Hulk Ultimate Destruction, it's a game that I don't give half a damn if it's accurate to his origin story, but it makes me feel like what I've been told the Incredible Hulk is like. I'm able to just shove my fists into buildings and climb them. To me, that's an accurate game.
For me as a comic book fan, like, accuracy really matters a lot, like, and it can make up for a game not being as entertaining as it should be. Or like Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions is a very like linear kind of third-person adventure, but it has so many awesome references to all of the different Spider-Man that were out there, that it's 4 different Spider-Man from different universes hanging out. There's a ton of extra costumes on top of that, and they're meeting characters from that they battled in their own comics. And same with like in the Batman Arkham games, that Batman could be any Batman, and it's not hard to understand who Batman is when you play it, and it all makes sense to a comic reader, but it's not off-putting to a regular person. Okay, so that's our reasoning that went into it, but if you want to see what our best superhero games are, just click on this link and go to the site to check it out. Until next time, be super.